Have you ever spoken too soon and regretted it later, or tried to defend yourself and ended up looking guilty? In a world that demands we speak, post, explain, and react, what if I told you that the true power lies in silence? Today, we unlock the forgotten weapon of rulers, spies, and survivors, the art of saying nothing and gaining everything. In the games of power, whether played in courtrooms, boardrooms, or behind the closed doors of your personal life, there is one weapon more potent than the sword, more persuasive than gold, and more enduring than charisma: silence. To the untrained mind, silence appears as passivity, weakness, a void to be filled. But to those who understand the true nature of power, silence is a tool, a device, a trap. Understand this: he who speaks first loses the advantage. The moment your tongue moves, your mind is exposed, your emotions leak, your intent is no longer yours alone, but the man who watches, listens, and says nothing becomes a riddle, a mirror, a presence that unsettles simply because it refuses to be predictable. Let me take you into the court of Florence, a room filled with chatter, flattery, and deception. Noblemen praising one another, ambassadors pretending peace, spies pretending loyalty. But in the corner stands a man who smiles faintly and says nothing, who is feared more, the one who boasts or the one who watches. Silence is not the absence of thought. It is thought in its purest, most concentrated form. The silent man is calculating. He is weighing your words, your tone, your posture. He is dissecting your arguments, not to respond immediately, but to store them, twist them, and perhaps use them against you when the timing is perfect. You see, timing is everything in power. A premature strike reveals desperation. An untimely defense reveals weakness. But silence buys you time. Time to think, time to adjust, time to let your opponent show his full hand while you hold yours close. This is the difference between the wise and the foolish. The foolish rush to speak, eager to prove their worth, eager to be heard. But those who are truly powerful, they do not seek to be heard, they wait to be sought. Imagine a negotiation table. One man speaks quickly, flooding the room with offers, compromises, and justifications. He believes he is showing strength, but in reality, he is broadcasting his fears, his eagerness, and his desperation to close the deal. The other man, however, remains still. His eyes betray nothing. His fingers do not twitch. He speaks only once, and what he says is carefully measured, sharp, and final. Who then has the upper hand? Silence makes people uncomfortable, and this is where its true power lies. People interpret silence in ways that reveal more about them than about you. They project, they panic, they assume, and when people assume, based on nothing but the vacuum you have created, they begin to make mistakes. You didn't even move your piece, they made the wrong move for you. Machiavelli understood this well. He warned that power is not gained by the loudest cry, but by the man who appears calm when others lose control. Because calmness in the storm suggests you control the storm, and silence is calm distilled into a weapon. Consider this: when you are angry, what do? You raise your voice. You clench your jaw. You blurt out accusations you later regret. But what if instead you smiled slightly and said nothing? Now the anger shifts. Now the other person wonders what you're thinking. They feel exposed while you remain hidden. They escalate and expose even more. This is the beginning of control, in political rooms, in psychological warfare, in intimate relationships, even in the art of seduction. Those who can stay silent when provoked, when tempted, when baited, are those who dominate the frame, because silence says, I do not need to convince you. I do not need to explain myself to you. I do not seek your validation, and that terrifies people. But here lies the irony. Mastering silence is not natural. Human beings are wired to speak, to fill awkward gaps, to defend themselves, to over-explain when accused, to respond when insulted. It takes discipline to stay still. It takes restraint to listen more than you speak. It takes patience to wait and wisdom to know when not speaking is the loudest answer of all. And those who master it, those who know that every pause is a tactical decision, become more than men, they become myths. You never forget the person who said nothing while the world talked around him, because silence lingers, silence haunts, Silence leaves room for the imagination, and when you let people imagine you, they often imagine you as greater, stronger, and more dangerous than you really are. And that is a victory earned without ever drawing a sword. What people see is rarely what truly is, and this illusion, this gap between appearance and reality, is where silence holds its most deceptive strength. For when you say nothing, you offer no facts to weigh, no motives to dissect, no stance to attack. What then do people do in the face of your silence? They fill the silence with their own projections. And that is power. The one who speaks defines himself. He gives the world a shape to target. He carves out his identity and hangs it up like a banner on the wall. Easy to shoot down, easy to mock, easy to mistrust. But the one who remains silent is undefined, and in that vagueness lies dominance. People cannot fight what they cannot understand. They cannot predict what they cannot hear. You become a cipher, and in human psychology, the unknown always commands more attention than the known. Curiosity leads to speculation, and speculation, when uncorrected, becomes perception. And perception, in the minds of most, is indistinguishable from truth. Now imagine this effect multiplied by time. You sit in a meeting. Everyone offers their thought, some intelligent, some desperate, some foolish, but you do not speak. You nod occasionally, you listen. You make no expression of favor or disapproval. Soon, the others begin to wonder what you're thinking. They begin interpreting your silence as intellect, as calculation, as confidence. Some will fear they've offended you. Others will try to impress you, to break the silence you've wrapped around yourself like armor. And yet you've done nothing, you've revealed nothing, but you've created movement, reaction, tension. With words, one must struggle to persuade, but with silence, people convince themselves of your importance. Now, do not mistake this for passivity. This is not indifference. This is a conscious performance. It is presence without noise. It is the art of being felt without being fully seen, and that is more commanding than any speech, more seductive than any flattery. Machiavelli knew this when he wrote of princes who must learn to appear virtuous, even when they are not. He understood the value of crafting an image, because it is image, not substance, that moves crowds, that commands loyalty, that incites fear. Silence is the raw material from which image is shaped. Let me show you why. When you speak, every word reveals not just meaning, but intent. Tone reveals emotion. Grammar reveals education. Speed reveals nerves. Over time, you build a profile that can be understood. And once understood, it can be dismantled. You are mapped, but the silent man, he gives no blueprint, no pattern to trace, no map to follow. And so others are left only with their own interpretations. One sees wisdom, another sees arrogance, a third sees calm, but in truth what they see is themselves projected onto the wall of your silence. In statecraft, this is a dangerous advantage. The quiet ruler, the quiet general, the quiet advisor, these are the ones who shape history without becoming its target, because power can only be overthrown when it is recognized, and silence keeps your power invisible. Until it's too late, even in social circles, observe how silence manipulates perception. The loud man is entertaining, perhaps, but quickly exhausted. He is predictable. He has revealed his character. But the quiet one in the corner, who says little, yet watches everything, draws more speculation than the fool who won't stop speaking. Is he shy? Is he confident? Is he cold or deeply aware? The mystery becomes a fascination. And in fascination, influence is born, because people trust their own conclusions more than yours. And if your silence leads them to conclude you are powerful, wise, or dangerous, they will act accordingly. They will treat you with deference. They will avoid challenging you directly. They will even obey you without you needing to demand it. This is the silent shaping of perception. Even enemies fall into this trap. A silent adversary makes them anxious. They prepare for attacks that may never come. They read malice into every neutral glance. They grow paranoid. They lose sleep. And all the while, you have not said a word. And this is the secret. Silence makes you seem more than you are. You become bigger in their minds, stronger, smarter, more prepared. They fear the possibilities your silence represents, rather than the facts your words would confirm. And the mind, once captured by uncertainty, becomes easy to control. There is a flaw in most men, a flaw they mistake for strength. It is the desire to speak, to explain, to clarify every move they make, every decision they take, every accusation they receive. They imagine that by expressing themselves clearly, they will be understood, respected, even forgiven. But what they fail to see is this: the moment you begin to explain yourself, you have already surrendered power. Words are not armor. Words are not shields. In truth, words are weaknesses made audible. When you speak, you risk exposing things that are better left buried: your doubts, your contradictions, your fears, even if dressed in rational tones. People listen not just to your meaning, but to your tension, to the slight hesitation in your voice, to the way your story shifts, to the emotional leaks you never intended to reveal. And once they've heard those things, they can never unhear them. This is why silence is the natural fortress of the wise. It conceals, it deflects, it denies your enemies a single thread to pull on. Because once you speak, the unraveling begins. Imagine a man falsely accused of betrayal. His instinct is to defend himself, to protest, to shout, to call witnesses, to beg for understanding. But in doing so, he confirms his own desperation. His voice shakes. His words become excessive. He says too much. The more he tries to prove innocence, the more it looks like guilt. People think, why is he trying so hard to be believed? What is he hiding? Now picture another man. He is also accused, but he does not flinch. He meets the gaze of his accuser, remains calm, and says little or nothing. He offers no apology, no elaborate excuse, perhaps only a simple, steady glance that says, "You are unworthy of an explanation." Now the accuser begins to doubt. Others watching begin to wonder, is he innocent, or is he so powerful that he doesn't need to care what we think? That difference lies not in facts, but in behavior. Silence does not prove innocence. It proves composure, and in the eyes of most, composure is indistinguishable from strength. Machiavelli understood this contradiction perfectly. He knew that the more a ruler tries to appear honest, the more he risks appearing vulnerable. The more he speaks to justify his rule, the more he invites scrutiny. In contrast, the ruler who says little, who keeps his counsel private, who lets rumors swirl without response, that ruler creates an image of control, whether or not he actually possesses it. Silence not only protects what is real, it amplifies what is imagined. It is also the antidote to emotional impulsiveness. Words spoken in anger, fear, or pride are often irreversible. A careless insult can spark war. A sudden confession can destroy a reputation. But a man who stays silent when provoked is not emotionless. He is trained. He has learned that feelings are fleeting, but the consequences of words are permanent. In relationships, too, silence guards your value. The more you explain yourself to someone who doubts you, the lower you sink in their eyes. You teach them that your truth is negotiable, that your identity needs their approval. But when you say less, when you resist the urge to correct every misjudgment, you teach them something far more important, that you are self-contained, that you answer only to yourself. It is often the overtalkers who are viewed as needy, as insecure, as unconvincing, and those who say little. They are the ones who carry the mystery, who draw attention, who hold influence without having to ask for it. Even in moments of triumph, silence has power. When you win, when you are praised, when others celebrate you, it is tempting to speak at length, to share your story, to bask in recognition, but the wise man resists. He understands that explaining his success diminishes it, that making himself relatable removes the aura, that by staying quiet, he becomes larger than life in the minds of others. And here lies one of the cruel truths of human psychology. People do not always value what they understand. Often, they respect what they cannot quite grasp, what seems distant, what remains slightly out of reach. Silence creates that distance. It is the soft fog that surrounds your image, making you seem more than mortal. Even the greatest mistakes can be shielded by silence. When you've failed, if you remain calm, say little, and keep moving forward without apology, you give people nothing to attack. They may suspect. They may gossip, but they cannot pin you down, and without your own words to use against you, their power fades. In a world ruled by speed, fast opinions, rapid replies, instant judgment, silence is the rarest form of control. It is not just a defense, it is a tactic, not just a habit, but a weapon used by those who understand timing as the very skeleton of power. And here, we arrive at silence's most deadly function, the ability to choose when to speak. Because silence is not muteness, it is not the absence of voice, but the storing of voice for when it will matter most. The weak speak constantly, hoping to be heard. The powerful speak rarely, but when they do, the world listens, and the space between their words becomes a kind of countdown, a growing tension, anticipation, a loaded gun that is not yet fired. That is where true influence begins. Timing is what separates those who merely talk from those who command. Words delivered at the wrong time, even brilliant ones, fall flat, but the simplest sentence, dropped in a moment of tension, crisis, or uncertainty, can shift the direction of an entire room. Silence is the waiting that allows this moment to form. Machiavelli would say, "The prince who speaks too soon looks foolish. The general who reveals his strategy before the battle is over invites defeat. The advisor who cannot wait to be heard will be ignored." The man of influence must study the room, not to contribute, but to dominate by restraint. He must let others burn themselves out with noise, with overconfidence, with eagerness. And then, only then, strike with a voice that sounds inevitable. You see this in every game of power. In politics, a leader who reacts too quickly to opposition often looks defensive. His critics grow stronger, but the one who remains still as his enemies talk themselves into corners. He gives them just enough rope to hang themselves. Then, at the precise moment, when confusion peaks and attention is ripe, he speaks, briefly, sharply, decisively. The silence has framed his words like a blade unsheathed, and the impact is tenfold. Even in private life, this principle governs influence. When someone insults you, do you respond instantly? Then you are already beneath them. You are admitting their words reached you. You are playing their game. But if you wait, if you say nothing, their victory melts into uncertainty. They begin to question themselves. They fill your silence with their own insecurity. They repeat their insult, louder this time, desperate to draw you in, and still, you give nothing. Now you are not just winning. You are untouchable. There is power in letting others act first. The impatient will always reveal themselves. They will show their hands, their plans, their motives, and all the while you remain unreadable. You watch, you study, you measure. Your silence is not hesitation. It is calculation. And when the moment comes, you speak with a voice sharpened by precision. Because power is not just about what is said. It is about what is remembered. A single phrase spoken in silence is remembered more than 1,000 words spoken in chaos. Think of the courtroom, the final word from the defense. Think of the battlefield, the signal to attack. Think of the throne room, the moment the sovereign finally speaks. In all these moments, timing is king, and silence is the instrument that makes timing possible. Those who speak endlessly are rarely taken seriously. Their voices become background noise, but those who are known to be silent, when they do speak, cause tension, rooms fall quiet, eyes lock on them, the air itself shifts, because silence has elevated their words before they've even begun to speak. This is not about being quiet for the sake of appearing mysterious. No, mystery alone is not enough. It is about using silence as a countdown, a slow build, a kindling of attention. It is about turning patience into pressure. The longer you wait, the more power you store. The more noise you allow others to make, the clearer your voice will cut through when the time is right. And that is what the world responds to: not chatter, not volume, not the rush to be first. The world responds to those who enter the room without rushing, to those who look around, unmoved by the noise, and wait. Wait until they know their voice will not just be heard, but felt. The moment belongs not to the speaker who fills every second, but to the one who has chosen the perfect second to speak. And it is silence, not speech, that gives him that control. So now you see, silence is not absence. It is presence, concentrated. It is not a lack of power, but the proof that you no longer need to show it. In a world obsessed with being seen, heard, validated, you will be the one who withholds. While others waste their strength trying to explain, justify, impress, you will grow more unpredictable, more compelling, more feared, because silence breeds mystery, and mystery breeds influence. Let them speak first. Let them expose themselves. Let them become addicted to being understood. You will become a question they can't answer, a thought they can't control, a force they cannot anticipate. And when you do finally speak, after the noise has peaked, after attention has turned, after doubt has ripened, your words will strike like thunder in a room that had gone still waiting for them. That is how silence wins. Not by avoiding the game, but by mastering the tension that controls it. And in the end, it is not the loudest voice that shapes history. It is the one who knew when not to speak, until speaking became inevitable.